So, Brian Michael Bendis.
Yeah, he's supposedly at DC now, or leaving Marvel to go to DC.
Leaving Marvel to go to DC.
So my thing is, I don't mind if people go to DC or go to whatever, but to do so at the exclusion of their existing properties that kind of depend on them, such as Jessica Jones, etc. You know, maybe even Powers, stuff like that. I don't know if Powers is affected, being as though he owns it, but stuff like Jessica Jones, which is bigger than it ever was, he's going to leave that to go exclusive with DC, and that worries me. That bothers me.
Well, I don't know that it bothers me. Maybe worried a little bit, but I am going to say, thinking back historically, I'm sure a lot of people, like if you and I had been around then, or I had been older than I am, we'd think the same thing about Jack Kirby leaving Marvel and going to DC.
Oh,
leaving
yeah.
Fantastic Four,
For sure.
leaving Thor, leaving
Yeah.
all that stuff, going to DC. Now, when he gets to DC, he gives us the Fourth World. He gives us Commandy, the Last Boy on Earth. He gives us OMAC, the One Man Army Corps. He does, all those fantastic things.
Yeah.
And then he comes back to Marvel, and when he comes back to Marvel, he's doing different things. Now, that's Jack Kirby. John Byrne left Marvel, left Fantastic Four, left the Hulk, things that he was closely associated with.
Yeah.
Went to DC and did Superman for not quite 2 whole years, and then came back to Marvel and once again picked up different things. There are other talents that have done similar, but ultimately the creativity, the creations themselves, the characters, those get picked up by somebody else.
Of course they do. Of course they do.
And we go on.
And luckily for Fantastic Four, we had a Simonson run shortly thereafter.
Yes.
Which was excellent. And and this sort of thing, but for every excellent pickup like that, you get something where they're dropped and they don't recover anytime soon.
Sure.
And
that's it's a danger. Certainly, there are a couple of dangers here. One of them is what happens to Jessica Jones, what happens to Miles Morales, and so on. But then the other danger, and this is in my mind even more so, is how does Brian Michael Bendis gel with the current creative teams and creative direction of DC Comics? Bendis wasn't part of this rebirth, and the other teams extant certainly are, and we're moving in a consistent direction. We're moving, through Metal. We're moving towards the Dark Matter universe. We're moving towards the Doomsday Clock. We're going in a direction where, even though the titles don't necessarily have like intermingled, locked crossovers, we're all going to the same place together.
Sure.
The things that are happening with the Fourth World. With
I
the
feel
new
like
gods.
he's strong with those things, though. I'm not worried at all about those things. Like maybe his personality syncing with whatever artist or that sort of thing.
Sure, but he wasn't there when Jeff Johns came up with these ideas. Does he like all of the ideas that will be presented to him? I don't know. Everything that I say right now is completely being speculative.
Yeah.
But that is a thought in my mind that he's going to get there and he's going to be like a rock star that everybody at DC is like, oh great, hey look, we stole Brian Michael Bendis from Marvel, but then he'll get there and he won't fit very well. He'll be a square peg in a round hole, perhaps.
Yeah,
Perhaps.
I'm not worried about that at all. I'm definitely not worried about that at all. Nor am I worried about Miles being picked up well, because I feel like there are other Spider-Man and young adult writers, in Marvel right now that could easily jump on that, and we don't know who that's going to be yet.
Sure.
But whoever picks that up, I'm kind of not really worried that it's going to be good. Jessica Jones is a little more niche. Like if Marvel still had the ability to call on Robert Kirkman, for when he did the third Ant-Man or whatever.
Yeah.
Back then. He had, you could get somebody like that, and he would fit with Jessica Jones. But who would do Jessica Jones right now?
Well, it's a good question, and I think some of the answer to that question is either A, existing talent who have a strength that maybe we haven't seen yet.
Sure.
Who knew that Chip Zdarsky would be so good on Marvel
Spider-Man.
fans?
Yeah.
And that's one example that you could make. There are other books right now at Marvel, and I'm enjoying them very much, and I'm enjoying the creative teams. But, who knows? Maybe Kieran Gillen could reach into some of the same sensibilities he has on a book like The Wicked and the Divine or on Uber. Both of these are more mature books.
Okay.
And maybe he could tap that.
Well, I guess.
And that's just one name. I'm not necessarily saying that that's the name
and I guess
want.
you know, and I guess it could be, you know, you could have like Cullen Bunn doing that, since obviously he can do an edgier book with no problems.
Yeah, I feel like Jason Aaron might be able to touch enough of the edginess. Maybe we could get Charles Soule or Charles Soule. One of these days I'm going to learn to pronounce that man's name correctly.
That would be a good idea.
I promise you I will.
But you should go find him at a convention and talk to him
ask
in
him
person.
how he is.
Yeah.
How do you
Well,
pronounce
you
your
know,
name?
I met him and you know, I shook his hand and he autographed a comic for me and he introduced himself to me as Charles.
Of course.
You know, I'm like,
Then you
well,
go, how do you pronounce your last name?
Yeah.
we quickly moved into the Death of Wolverine and Letter 44, and the conversation was totally derailed.
Of course. That's how it always is with you, Troy. So,
What do you... Again?
so that raises the question, what characters would Brian Michael Bendis do when he gets to DC? Is he going to maybe revamp, say, The New Gods or something like that, or do, say, something, say a Commandy or something like that for DC? What would he exactly do when he gets there?
That's a good question, because we already have creative teams extant, and we're all moving. Like I said, we're moving in a direction.
Yeah.
So you know, is DC going to come? Are they going to let him pick up a character that isn't being used right now and go forward with that?
So what isn't being used right now?
Oh, there's a lot of characters.
There's a lot. Like the
There's-
Can we have
GSA.
blue and gold?
No, because no one's really doing anything with Booster Gold right now.
Yeah.
All right. Can we have a blue and gold comic written by Bendis? Because I would love that.
That would be great. Yeah, that
Well,
would be actually
we'd
pretty
have
good.
to do something different with Ted Cord, the Blue Beetle.
Yep.
Ted Cord
Is
is in the Blue Beetle book
book.
right now. There are characters
Hawk and Dove.
like
He'd
Hawk
do
and
an
Dove.
interesting Hawk and Dove.
Oh God, I've always disliked Hawk and Dove.
Well, maybe you just haven't liked whoever's written.
Oh,
them.
they've been so. Hawk and Dove and Marvel's version of Hawk and Dove, Cloak and Dagger, have always been so painful. And I just, you know, everybody tries to make them work, and they're just not good.
Well, you know, it's like,
that's why maybe Brian Michael Bendis can bring new life to them.
That's
I
possible.
mean,
yeah,
you
you
know,
know, that's
he kind of struck gold when he did Jessica Jones, and so maybe he needs to bring new life into Hawk and Dove or something like that.
so.
Maybe.
You know, I'm again. Because DC has a direction already going, you're like, would Bendis come in and say, "Hey, let's you know have a DC Max line," and you know, will Jeff Johns be down with that? That just to you know,
Just as a sort of a example, yeah.
What about, like, do you think the possibility of them just going kind of Marvel mode and giving him, like, Earth 2?
Oh,
well,
something like that'd be
Something
fun.
like that would be interesting to see.
It'd be interesting to see, and again, part of that execution is what does DC plan to do
Yeah,
with
certainly.
the
With
positive
that.
matter multiverse?
Yeah.
You know, they've talked. It's been talked about bringing back the Legion of Superheroes in the future, bringing back the JSA. On Earth 2, following the conclusion of Earth 2 Society. We haven't seen the JSA.
I want to see JSA. I would read his JSA actually.
Now, would we bring back old school JSA, or would we work with the younger incarnations that they introduced in New 52?
The good part about JSA is the answer always should be both.
Yeah.
Well, we don't need two Jake Ericks. We don't need two Alan Scotts.
Whoa, okay, fine. But even that duplication could be dealt with in their multiverse sort of thing. I mean, one isn't going to be the prime. You know, you're not going to have both hanging around for every issue, but I think you could really benefit by having.
We've got two Wally West running around currently in the DC universe at the moment,
and you know,
and they're both Flashes.
And you know, I don't know how the reader base in general is dealing with the confusion of that. Now, I don't have any problem with it, but you know, with DC not publishing a letters page, with people not talking about it in their letter calls, I just really don't have time to spend on the internet reading this stuff, you know, in internet, you know, on blogs and
Finding it.
social media and what have you. It's
Yeah,
like
finding it.
there's a lot of stuff there, and you know, I'm reading 170 comics. You know, I can either read 170 comics or I can read about comics, but there's not enough time to do both.
It's true. There's a lot of good comics these days.
You know, there really are.
Isn't
Overall,
it,
you guys are excited? Or are you guys scared for Marvel? Or
Well, I think Marvel will recover. Now, see,
Of course
here's the
they
thing.
will.
Yeah.
Historically, this is not the first time that a big talent, has ever migrated from Marvel. I referenced some examples. There are others,
Right.
but Marvel has historically also found or created new talent. You know, they've either looked to what they already have, or they've given somebody from the outside a chance, you know, or they've taken a junior writer and given them an opportunity to grow faster. Oh yeah. But yeah, that really truly is. You know, this is what happens when we're jawboning and working simultaneously. Our attention spans are like, you know, fireflies with ADD. Yeah, ADD or ADHD? Which is it?
It's both.
Well,
actually.
according to the DSM-5, it's ADHD. They're all ADHD now, which is weird. Even
So-
if you don't have the hyperactivity component.
There we are. We are fireflies with ADHD. But I think this is a chance for Marvel, because Marvel is also moving in a direction, but the direction that they're moving and the method that they're taking to that direction, the legacy, is different from DC's Rebirth. Legacy isn't about unifying everything into Dark Matter universe, into Doomsday Clock, you know, into another event. Marvel just finished their event, Secret Empire, and now they're moving into tight story, not necessarily continuity, but story cohesion, stories within themselves.
I'm enjoying them so far. At least,
Yeah.
you know, my existing titles that I enjoy.
Now, that's not to say that we don't have crossovers, because we do. We have Carol Danvers appear in Jessica Jones, but it doesn't mean that Captain Marvel and Jessica Jones are a crossover. They're not. It's just the character is there. It's the fact that Wilson Fisk is mayor of New York. Well, that's relevant to any character in New York. Now, if you're reading Daredevil, that's where that story is really strong. But if you're another story, if you're Luke Cage, if you're Jessica Jones, you know, it's Spider-Man, then the fact that Wilson Fisk is the Kingpin has relevance. And oh, look, there it is. So these things are all happening. We're in a shared universe.
Yep.
But I think Marvel has a talent well right now that they could reach into. I would caution against overusing any one person. And, you know, maybe this is an opportunity
Don't
to...
dry your well.
Right. Don't dry the well. This is an opportunity to look to creating some more new talent, to giving a junior individual an opportunity to step up with the big boys and do their thing. I think Marvel has...
Or just go, you know, search Canada for, you know, to go and get their old talent.
So yeah, you know, certainly I wish Brian Michael Bendis success. I don't want him to fail. Of
course not, no.
I want him to be successful. And if he brings some kind of creative frisson, you know, like John Byrne and Chris Claremont didn't always work well together, but when they disagreed with each other, their creative frisson still produced some very solidly good